Well, there was technically a shutout in this game, just not the team you wanted the shutout to happen for. Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche post-game show presented by Bet365. We got Big E and Rudo coming to you as the Avs lose 3-0 to the Vancouver Canucks in a game that, whatever you want to call it, it was not very fun. I do not think this was a particularly fun game of hockey. And the 8 p.m. start did not help that, probably. But it is what it is. I honestly, to be frank with you, I thought the first 15 minutes of this game was pretty good. I thought the Avs played pretty well. They just didn't finish their chances. Maybe they got a little bit unlucky. They hit 2-3 posts. Couldn't find a way to score that goal. And then you take a penalty. Or really, you have a terrible power play with about 5 minutes left in the first. And Vancouver kind of just takes over the game from there. They finish the first period strong, even if you don't give up a goal. The Avs come out flat in the second period. Vancouver again eventually gets that first goal, and the Avs are just never really able to answer E. The last couple of games, obviously they won the last two, but the last couple of losses before that, you felt like the Avs played pretty well. Things didn't work out for them. Do you feel like that again tonight, or is there a bit more of the Avs kind of deserve to lose this one?
No, I got to be honest with you. I'm the one that kept saying about that 3-game road trip before the 2 games at home there that I didn't mind their play at all. I didn't. I felt they could have gotten 3 wins out of it, not being woulda, shoulda, coulda. It was just reality. I felt that they could have easily won those 3 games. You'll make mental mistakes, hence the Boston game, and a couple of mistakes there in the third. Next thing you know, you fall down. You're chasing the game. Tonight, I didn't like it. I'm with you. I liked the first period. Didn't mind that at all. I didn't like the end of the first period. We talked about it in the pregame. I'm all for mistakes. It's a game of mistakes. I got no problems with that. You miss an assignment. It goes quick. There's a switch. You're on the seeds. You're tired. I don't like gifts. You know what I mean? For me, for me that was a gift. You're at the end of the first period. You've had a good first period. Again, I don't care about posts. It is what it is. It's bad luck. What do you want me to tell you? Those were dead on posts. It could have easily been 3-0. It wasn't. At the end of the day, it was 0-0. But I didn't like the penalty Josh took at the end of the first. I thought it was useless. I thought it was dumb.
It was bad.
And then, you know what I mean? And then next thing you know, all of a sudden Vancouver finds their groove from that power play there at the start of the second period. They feel good about their game. And then I'm not here to blame Parsonen. I'm not here to do that. But it's a bad play. It's a bad play. It's a 0-0 game. Know what you are. You're getting into the offensive zone. And then, first of all, you get manhandled. You fall down. But you turn the puck over. And then it's a weird play. And DeBrus puts it down. And then it's in your net. Those are gifts. Those are not mistakes. I'll live with mistakes, hard-fought mistakes. I don't like gifts. And for me, it just kind of fell backwards after that. You know what I mean? Now you're chasing the game. You know what I mean? Now you're chasing the game. And their first 10 minutes of the second period was absolutely not very good. Again, it's playoff hockey. Bednar talked about it. This is clearly their playoffs as well for Vancouver. They're right there. They're playing their season right there. Don't think they're not saying the same thing in their locker room the last couple of games. And obviously with the Miller trade and everything. And, sometimes things don't go your way. You know what I mean? Like the Post. It didn't go their way. It was a solid first period. You just got to stick with it and be smart. And then that's not what they did. They fell behind in the second period in the sense that the game was way too fast for them. They were like not in it the first 9 minutes until they got a great shift there from the McKinnon line with about 10 minutes to go in the period. And, a couple of gifts, pucks in your net. Uh, you know, Blackwood wasn't going to go shutout. Like, again, I thought he was going to I was messing around before the game, so he's going to get a shutout. But I'm saying, next thing you know, you got to score some goals. It's got to be like, at some point, I thought the first line was buzzing. Other than that, we'll get to afterwards a little bit. Like I thought they were undisciplined by the third period. I thought it was dumb. They didn't. I mean, that's not. I'm the guy that says bring something. It's not about fighting, but bring something. That's not what I mean by that. Like that wasn't very effective. Something. You know what I mean? It was more like undisciplined something. You know what I mean?
You've nailed two of the topics I want to talk about on this show. The first one I want to jump into there is since the turn of the new year, the reality is there is a pattern in Avalanche losses. And I know there's been a lot of scrutiny on the defense of this team as of late, but the reality is this is the Avs' ninth loss since the turn of the new year. The Avs' goals in losses since January 1 go 1, 1, 0, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then tonight 0. It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
When the Avs are losing games, it's because they aren't producing.
Yeah, and I'm with you. And again, if you go back to watching our pregame, I'm not saying woulda, shoulda, coulda. I'm saying for me, at some point, the bottom line has to start contributing. I know all of a sudden they have a game where Logan scores or whoever, and then we're all like, "Oh, look at that depth production." Yeah, I know, but then it goes silent for 5, 6, 7, 8 games. You know what I mean? Like it's just I have a hard time, and I'm not here to pick on anyone, but I'm having a hard time when you're 40 games into the season and you have like, I'm going to use Ross for a second. Yeah, I like Ross. I like the intensity. I like everything, but you got 3 assists in 40 games. For me, it's, geez. I mean, at some point you gotta produce a little bit. Right? I mean, you gotta. Your line has to put the puck in the net 5-on-5. It's not like those dudes play 3, 4 minutes a night. Again, I'm gonna lay off those guys because whoever plays 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes a night, the call ups that we saw, the Inalas and earlier in the season. I'm not. At the end of the day, it's hard to produce. I tell you from the bench all the time. It's impossible. You know what I mean? Because you can't play from the bench with a long stick, and first of all, that would be interference. You have to go in the penalty box, right? I mean, I'm just being stupid right now, but I'm saying somewhere, somehow, I mean, the object is to put, you know, the rubber
It's
thing in the net, in the mesh net. You know what I mean? And it hasn't happened too often, like you said. Especially since the
well,
new year.
it's I don't want people to take this the wrong way because the lesson I'm trying to get across here is that the Avs need to raise the floor of their offense because this team is
Mm-hmm.
fully capable of playing high-end offense. When you go from January 1 and you look at the games they've won, the goals they've scored are 6, 3, 6, 3, 6, 5, 5, and 2. So they're fully capable of putting the puck in the back of the net. When they're on, they can score against anyone at any time. When it's not working, though, the floor is too low. They have to find ways to work through it when it's not just going in for them and get to 3. You got to get this league has been a race to 3 since you were a baby, Eric. It's just how the league works.
I agree. I'm with you, and that's why I'm a little disappointed tonight. I'm disappointed with if this is a playoff game. This is a playoff type atmosphere. Coach said for the last 5 games, where you're up 2-0 in the series. This is, let's say, a 3 out of 5. Because it was 5 games. This is a game where you can clinch, and this is what you come out with. I don't like it. You know what I mean? Because you should be able to, first of all, control your emotions. B, be able to not get stubborn and be mad about, the 3 posts, and you just stick with it. Stick to the way you're playing, and then don't fall asleep for a 10-minute period. You know what I mean? Like it's just doesn't. It will cost you in this league. It does. It just will cost you. And then the useless, silver platter, mistakes, you know what I mean, are will cost you in playoffs. And you can't. And I mean, I'm all for, like I said, I'm all for mistakes. It's a game of mistakes, and it's, they go tic tac toe. You forget your guy in front of them. I mean, God, it happens quick. I get it. You know what I mean? Like, but when they're useless penalties or useless plays, in the sense that it's an easy lay the puck behind them and don't turn it over, you know what I mean? It's just like it doesn't need to happen. And I think you just touched on something. If Nathan McKinnon or Marty Natchez or, get to the blue line, they have a turnover, listen, I'll live with it. I've always said that. I said that about Forsberg. When I say we, Forsberg, Sakic. For the number of chances they're going to create, if there's one that they mess up on and then I got no problem. But
Yeah.
when you're not producing a lot of scoring chances, and you're certainly not putting a lot of pucks in the net on a consistent basis, you can't make that play. Yeah, you just can't. And it's like people are going to say, "Well, guys have different leashes." Yeah, they do. They do. I mean, one's leading the league in scoring, and that means that you can live with 1,000 chances he creates, and then all of a sudden he makes a bad one. When you're not really creating much and you make that play, for me, it's tough. It's a tough one. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny if you're playing, and I like Parson, and I'm not here to peel his onion. But if you're playing in Nashville and you're 10 games below 500 right now, sure. I mean, whatever. This is a team you're trying to win the championship with, and then those are things you can't do. And I'm not here to keep harping on the play, but it's to play the game. It's the game-winning goal. You know what I mean? So, I understand that, but those are things that you can eliminate. You don't need those. And if you make that play and then you make a mistake, then you know what? Find a way to get it back. I've always told you that. You know what I mean? Like, hey, a guy makes a bad play. Find a way to get it back. Find a way to make something happen. Again, when you have a
And,
bagel at the end of the day, you didn't make anything happen.
and that's your point earlier. Mistakes happen in a hockey game to both teams on the ice. Sometimes you're going to make the mistake and screw it up, but you have to find a way to play effective hockey around it. In the last 40 minutes of this game, how many high danger chances do you think the Avs generated?
In the last 40, you said?
Yeah, take away the first.
Yeah, first was good. I thought they did. On the last
I agree.
40,
I agree.
I'm going to maybe two. Am I right?
Exactly two.
And I'm trying to
And
remember them. I guessed. I'm
yeah,
guessing. I don't have the numbers
right.
in front of me, but
That's not. I don't care what the score is. If you generate two high danger chances in 40 minutes, you're not playing quality offense. There is no universe where you can call that good, effective offensive hockey. It's just not. And I have a lot of different looks at this one because I noticed a few interesting things about the way the Avs are playing in this game. The first one I want to touch on, when the Avs fall into a hole like this, is the problem more of one, players are being too cute, they're trying to make too cute of plays, or is it two, they're not engaged enough? Because if you go back and watch, especially the top line, when McKinnon and Makar are out there, you'll see a lot of Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar circling the entire zone, and nothing comes of it. You get a full offensive zone possession that generates nothing. Is that guys trying to play hero puck, or is that the guys off the puck standing around not creating options?
yeah, man, it's a little bit of both, right? You know what I mean? Like, I just when they start circling, I just like to have like some sort of a shot on net, like I've always told you, because it
Yeah.
creates broken plays. You know what I mean? I think people are so scared to defend those two guys, for example, that they're always going to be on their best behavior. You know what I mean? But if there's a broken play, then you got to pivot, try to find pucks, and then all of a sudden you give the puck to McKinnon. It's so quick. Then he can dangle you, make a play, and make it like seam pass. We saw that in that shift there halfway through the second period where Demko was at his best there for that 1 minute, right? You know what I mean? I think he made the save on Lecky, made the
Yeah.
save on
Blecky
was it
was the big
Kale
one.
again?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lecky was a bit. I mean, again, I do feel that they get stubborn. We talked about that pregame. They get stubborn with their play, and then I just feel that if that's your best uh, way to play playoff hockey. Like playoff hockey is dirty, it's nasty. Some games you got to win 1-0, it is what it is. 20 years ago, 5 years ago, last year, it's tough. It's tough to score. You have to get to the inside. You have to finish your checks. You have to be involved passionately. And we talked about it like, you know, before the game. I said, you got to get involved. You know what I mean? And again, I think they got involved in the wrong way. I don't think Miles would be proud of his game. You know,
We'll talk about it. Yeah.
that's what I mean. Like somewhere, it's like, you know, it's just not. That's not how you play playoff hockey. You know what I mean? Like, but you got to get involved emotionally and physically, and you know, even if you're Casey or if you're, you know, Jonathan, like that line, you got to get involved in the game. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just, you know, all of a sudden float and hope that something's going to happen, and you know what I mean? Like, you got to make it happen. And I felt that they didn't make it happen. Like you said, two scoring chances, you know, high danger chances in the last 4 minutes. That's just not enough when you're trailing the game. Again, remember, in a playoff game. Yeah, according to Bednar, it was a playoff game because he talked about it, but it is a playoff game. Look at the standings; those are playoff games this week, and you can't. You got to be at your best, and you got to bring the most of your emotions, you know, every shift, and chase it if you have to.
Yep, it's. I think there is a lack of generation in that depth for you. I'm not saying your best players did enough or whatever tonight, but Nathan MacKinnon ends the night with 5 shots on goal. Natchez, 3 shots on goal. So that's 8 shots from your top 2 forwards. When you look at your bottom 6 as a whole, your bottom 6 ended up with, let's see, 2, 4, 5. Your bottom 6 had 5 shots on goal. 6 dudes couldn't even get a shot apiece in a game where you scored 0 goals. You got to shoot to score, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And then again, we can talk about Manson later on too. That obviously it hurt when he's not there at the end either. You know what I mean? And you could see the foot speed there on that PK goal, right? You know what I mean? That was a tough one.
Yeah, the defense was done by the end, but
yeah,
is what it is. We do got to take a quick break here, as we are brought to you by the folks over at Coors Light. Make sure you're going and getting your ice cold Coors Light today, or better yet, don't go get it at all. Give it delivered right to your front door thanks to CoorsLight.com/DNVR and Instacart. It's the easiest way to get the beer and choose chill when it comes to Coors Light. Make sure you're jumping on it with Coors. You can have it during a boring Avs hockey game, and maybe things will get a little bit more interesting. Maybe you'll come up with a way to solve all of the Avs problems. Our chat sure tries that every single night, so I hope they're drinking Coors Light. While they do it, the mountains turn blue on the bottle or the can to let you know it's as cold as the Rockies. So it's also cold filtered and cold packaged for a smoother finish. Make sure you're getting with Coors Light today. Again, if you don't want to go out and get it delivered right to your front door with CoorsLight.com/DNVR, and Instacart will get you your stuff right away. Celebrate responsibly, of course. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Once you've got an ice cold Coors Light in your hand, make sure you're also getting some delicious pizza here in Colorado with Sexy Pizza. Jump in with them. They serve delicious by-the-slice pizza, but they're more than just that, too. They're part of the community, as they always have fundraisers going. They support a bunch of local sports teams, and they're just a darn cool place to hang out and enjoy some delicious pizza. Get with them if you haven't. They have a bunch of amazing specials. If you go to one of their locations that serve alcohol, they'll upgrade the daily special from a drink to a beer or a wine, whatever you drink. Either one is good with pizza. So jump in with them. You'll also get 15% off when you use code DNVR online or in store. So make sure you get that base special today. Sexy Pizza, serving sustainability, community, and hand-tossed pizzas in Colorado. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Let's get into the what do you want to call it, a discipline conversation, or do you want to? Yep. I mean, first fight, I don't really have a problem with. Miles Wood's trying to get the team going. Okay, cool, whatever. The rest of it, I don't really understand what he's doing.
Yeah, for me, getting involved is having a couple shifts in a row where you're buzzing and you're finishing your checks and they're chasing you and you're spending times in the offensive zone and you're creating stuff and all of a sudden the goalie makes a save or whatever it is, then your top line goes out there and then follows it up with a good shift. You have a big hit where all of a sudden they retaliate against you. I don't mind you get into a fight with a Forberg fight. If you call that a fight, it wasn't really a fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
sure.
no, not you. I'm saying like the 5 minutes. He gets 5 minutes for
No,
fighting.
I
It
agree.
was.
I
I mean,
agree with what you're saying.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah, yeah. I mean, what I always tell you, it's not always. It's not about fighting. I really don't care. It's more
Right.
about getting involved. And at some point, if you're not helping out, if you're not doing much, then you got to do something. Now all of a sudden it didn't really go there, and then afterwards it's a couple a couple bad penalties. You know what I mean? Like it's like you can't do that. You can't take those penalties. That's not playing tough. You know what I mean? Playing tough is, for me, Arturi Lehkonen is tough. You know what I mean? Why? Because every face off he's in the way. He's holding it the right guy. He's impeding your way to get to the puck. He's always in the right place. He's always the right angle. That's tough. You know what I mean? That's for me. That's what playing tough is. Now, when you have different attributes, and you have speed and you have size, and you got to finish your checks, and you got to be able to get momentum that way. Uh, that's not what the case was in the third period. There, that was on discipline, and then in the playoffs, that will sink you. And again, that's where they score you know that second goal, which was on the power play there, right? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Obviously, what's his name? DeBrus makes a nice play across, and you know Keaton got flat-footed there a little bit. But then again, you have no Manson there because he's didn't
Yeah.
finish the game. Obviously, it was gone, and then you're down to 5 Ds, and then there's one in the box. Now you're down to 4 D. I mean, someone's got to play, right? And then it's a goal, and it's a play that you can do without. You know what I mean? Like I'm all like I said for to bring some energy and to be there, to change things around, but you can't. And I don't want to hear, well, the other guys did stuff too. Well, no crap. I mean, at the end of the day, there's two teams out there. One, Alglander got away with it. He could have easily gotten a penalty there. When he hits Ross in the face, and he doesn't. And it was what it was. I mean,
Uh,
but
Miles Wood wasn't born yesterday. He's been in the NHL for years. He knows the refs are inconsistent. He knows you're taking that chance when you go and do stuff
yeah,
like that.
no, exactly. I mean, for me, that's what I mean. And then the Avalanche are never out of it when you got the leading scorer in the league and you got the Kale McCarrs of the world. But next thing you know, they're killing 6 minutes of penalties at the end.
Yeah.
One full 5-on-3. Kudos to them. I mean, it's awesome that they didn't score or whatever it was. But then again, you're taking away time. Father clock it's not on your side. You know what I mean? When you're killing, the last 7-8 minutes of a game. So again, you leave it down to that, and that's on you. And I'm sure they're going to address it. For me, it just wasn't a very productive, way to play playoff hockey today because it's supposed to be playoffs.
Yeah. I, look, you always say make the most of the time you get, right? Miles got 8.5 minutes of ice time tonight, and it was zeros across the board except for 23 penalty minutes. I,
Yeah, yeah.
you just
I mean,
can you
you
tell me
got to
he had a
create
positive
chances.
impact, right? Yeah, and the answer is no. He was on.
No.
Forget his own shot totals. He was on the ice for one single shot for the Avs. One.
Yeah, and that's what I say. For me, when you see zeros like that, and you got the Nates, and leading scorer in the league last year, right? Leading scorer of the league this year. He's doing his job. I'm separating the tiers. You know what I mean? Like I always do. Now the second tier guys, like you have to go help out. You don't need to score when it's 4-0 and make it a 5-1 game, or what I mean, because McKinnon's already got 3 points or whatever. You need to help out in those games where they're not on the board. You know what I mean? You
Yep.
got to make a difference there. Like I always say, anyone can make a save on a 4-0 game. There's a 2-0, and it's like but a 0-0 game, it's a different save. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. Anybody can score, make it a 5-0 game when it's 4-0 in the third period. I mean, that's a nothing burger goal. But what do you do when it's tied? What do you do when you're down by one? Can you produce that way? And that's where I think they're lacking a little bit. I think they've lacked in those. I love the stat that you pulled out since January 1, and those whatever it was 9 losses. I mean, it's pretty telling. It's pretty telling because that's the story of all those 9 losses. It's not like they're finding ways to lose. It's the same way. In those 9 losses, it's the same loss. It is
It's
exactly the same loss.
their losses are remarkably predictable since January 1. They all look, except for the Edmonton one, the other 8 pretty much all look the same.
Oh yeah. And again, we were tweeting. I'm not tweeting, but on Slack we were talking. But again, I wasn't even thinking about that. I'm just looking at the Slack there. But what I'm saying is, I feel that it's exactly the same game. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's the momentum loss, and it's like it's the couple gifts, and then it's like you don't get the momentum back, and then you're not playing with enough
It's
like jam or passion. You know what I mean? For me, I mean, there's a lack of jam, a
it's
lack of passion.
yeah, and it's the concern isn't, oh, the Avs don't have this, because they do have it. They show it in their wins all the time. It's
Hmm.
how what process happens where when they fall behind in a game, or when things aren't going in, or whatever isn't working for them, what decision making happens to end up in this room where they start getting too cute, where they start playing, I don't want to say the wrong way, but certainly not the right way. uh, how do they get into this room so frequently in their losses, and what can they do to prevent it? Which I like, I know that's a weird thing to say, because obviously you just make the right decisions, you play the same way you do in your wins, but obviously if that was easy they would just do it. So how do they get out of the rut of the way they're playing when they lose?
Well, I mean, I'll touch on it right now, but again, I think we're going to talk about it on the show tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
okay,
I'm
fair
just like,
enough, fair enough.
I know, but no, no, but I mean, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to escape the question, but I do believe they're missing a little bit of an engine. You know what I mean? Like, and when I say an engine, it's like uh, God, an emotional engine,
Sure.
not an engine like McKinnon or I mean, those are world class players. Those are, I mean, God, you got to throw Natchez in there too. I mean, they drive play, they make something happen. I just feel that they need an emotional guy. You know what I mean? Like again, a Landeskog. Landy's not there. I'm just saying they need a little bit of something, some gem, some snarl. Like I'm all for it. Again, I'm not old school. You know that. I love the skill of the game right now. And I love the skill that's in the National Hockey League. And it's so much better than 20 years ago. It's not even comparable. You know what I mean? Like the guys are so good. But there's still an element of physicality and, getting involved and bringing some emotions to the game. I feel that too many times when things don't go their way, they fall into that emotional like lack of emotions. You know what I mean? And nothing really happens. And that's why I'm saying bottom nine and look at the pregame. That's what I was talking about. I mean, for me. If you're getting 14, 15 minutes of ice time a night, like, I mean, at some point the puck has to hit your pant or, you know what I mean? Like, go in or you know what I mean? Like I don't know, you take a shot and then your line mate scores and you get an assist that way. Like I mean, at some point the points have to
So
you have to produce a little bit more.
yeah, I agree with the production side of it. I want to dig a little bit deeper on the emotional side of it, though,
Yeah,
because Miles Wood was emotional tonight. It
yeah,
just wasn't channeled the right way.
exactly. No, I agree
So
with you. That's what I'm saying. You got to do it the right way. For me, there's a way to do it without taking penalties, or if you're taking a penalty, it's obviously, like what do you call that, coincidental miters, and it's okay, and something happened, and but you can't be undisciplined. That is not what I'm trying to say. And there's a lot of people that do it in this league where they're not being undisciplined, and they play on the line, they play on the edge. You know what I mean? But all of a sudden they create something, and then the superstar comes in the next shift and score. You know what I mean? Because there was a little bit, you could see the momentum switch. You know what I mean? Where tonight I didn't see it. Again, like those 9 losses, I'm going back to tonight. You just gave me the numbers. 2 high danger chances the last 30 minutes. I mean, 40 minutes.
yeah.
At some point, it's not like you're sitting on your chair and you're like, oh, it's coming. It's coming. You know what I mean? It's the same feeling on the bench. It's not this. It's not like, all right, let's keep it up, boys. It's coming. It's imminent. It's not. You know what I mean? Like it just wasn't. You're
Yep.
looking at it and you know that the outcome's going to be that. And that's why it's so predictable. You know what I mean? And that's why it's disappointing. You know what I mean? And then you hope that somebody does something to turn the game on a dime. When I say does something, God, I'll rephrase it again. Like it's not fighting. Like it's not what I'm saying. It's do something. Like I don't know what something is. Make a big play. It could be an unbelievable like block shot. It could be a defensive play. It could be, something that creates the momentum to switch and all of a sudden to elevate everybody's game. Or, is it something you say on the bench? Is it something? For me, it just seems a little bit. And I know they're not a very talkative bench, not a very loud bench, and everybody's got different personalities. And I don't know. I just feel that they just fall asleep, and you can't fall asleep. This is not a time of year you fall asleep, because this is supposed to be playoff hockey right now, and you can't fall
It's
asleep for 1 minute.
it's hard because of the extended stretch, right? Like, I get it. There's another team out there. They're also trying to win the game. Okay, you played pretty well in
Yes,
the first period. You didn't get your result. Vancouver pushes back through the first 10 minutes of the second period. They get up 1-0. Okay, fine. Stuff like that happens. But like you said, where's the response? Where is the answer from the Colorado Avalanche there? Because the reality is they just kind of never really answered back against this Vancouver team tonight, and in multiple of their losses. It's hard to dig back into those and see the stretches of once you've stemmed the tide against the Avs, it feels too easy to just keep them at bay.
yeah, and I'm gonna use, like, for example, I hate using guys on the other teams, but I'm gonna use that. I'm not familiar with them. Uh, Elias, the defenseman, Pedersen, not the
Got it.
forward. What was it? His first game with the Canucks, whatever it was, second game. He was in every. Kid played unbelievable. He
Yeah.
played hard. He was in everybody's kitchen. Everybody was like trying to, get at. That's what I'm trying to say. You're playing hard. You're in people's kitchen. You're making things happen. You're playing the right way, and then all of a sudden, teams are taking, like, again, Miles, you're taking penalties on you, and then all of a sudden it's like you're doing your job. You're being effective because you're involved in the game. You know what I mean? So did this guy score a goal tonight? No. Was he effective? Yes, absolutely he was. And I was really impressed by him. Again, I've never seen him play, so I can't tell you that I know him and I'm used to him. And no, not at all. But he sure caught my eye tonight, because that's how you play hockey. You know what I mean? You get
Yeah.
involved, you do the right things, and then people, go after you. You know what I mean? That's what he did. Now, blame Miles for that? Absolutely, because that was not smart. That was dumb. And then it costs, again, even though at the end it didn't cost anything, it's costing time on the clock, where you can't make a comeback because everybody's in the box because of your, undiscipline.
Not only is it costing time, it would look at the opposite of that, right? Pedersen on defense showed up tonight, earned some extra ice time, took the pressure off
Mm-hmm.
some of those other defensemen on a night where they didn't have a Quinn Hughes to help that
That's
defense.
right.
Meanwhile, on the Avs side, Devontae's played 33 minutes of hockey tonight. Cale Makar played over 30 minutes of hockey. And I know Josh Manson's injury is part of that,
Yeah,
and we'll
yeah.
get to that. But also, Keaton Middleton played 30 seconds more than Josh Manson tonight, and Josh Manson got hurt, didn't play at all in the third. Sam Malinsky only hit the 13-minute mark. You, the guys at the bottom of the Avs lineup aren't earning that extra time, and they're putting even more pressure on their top guys to have to do even more in these games. And you kind of said it earlier. That's what you're talking about, where it's the close ones where you need your depth to help out, not the 5-0 victories that were in the bag anyway.
Yeah, and again, I'm not. It's just like there's a couple guys that look like it's too much for them, and I don't know why. You know what I mean? Like, it's I mean, they get pressured behind the net, and then they cough it up, and they look like a deer in the headlights, and they're not too sure. And it's like it's a game of emotion. It's a game of passion. You know what I mean? You got to bring your heart rate up. You got to be on your toes, and you got to believe in yourself. You know what I mean? Once you lose that, it's a slippery slope, because it's a tough way to play. It's a really tough way to play in this league, because it's dangerous. Meaning not that you're going to get hurt. I'm saying, but you're going to cough it up. You're not on top of your confidence, and boy, oh boy, can you feel it. I'm telling you, when you play against people that are not confident, you can feel it. You're looking at them at the face off, and you're like, it's a mental game. You're like, oh yeah, I got this guy. You know what I mean? Oh, I absolutely have this guy. And it's unfortunate, but once it creeps up in your game, like, you got to be able to stop it and get back to basics, especially when you're in time of needs, when Manson's down. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you're down to 5, and then there's one in the box. So you got to elevate your play. Like you said, I'm not even going to talk about the Avs guys, but that Pedersen guy on D for Vancouver tonight, he did. He elevated his play, especially in the time, like you said, where Quinn Hughes wasn't there. And, and like you said, he earned some ice time. I just didn't see that on the Avs side of things.
Yep, I agree. We do have to take our next break here, but if you're looking for more confidence out on the roads, make sure you're getting yourself with Toyota. Go to your local Front Range Toyota dealership today. Get yourself in the official vehicle of not just us here at DNVR, but of the Colorado Avalanche, too. They got 17 different all-wheel drive vehicles if you're off-roading or just dealing with weather on the roads. They got 16 different hybrid vehicles if you have a long commute like me. Well, I guess not today, but when we go in, long commute for me. That's where Toyota has you covered with all sorts of vehicles, trucks, SUVs, sedans, you name it. They've got a vehicle for everyone. So make sure you're hitting up your Front Range Toyota dealerships, including AutoNation Toyota Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Group Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche. Let's go places. Once you're in your Toyota, you might as well hit up your local Live Well. Live Well just wants to make sure everyone's living well by having access to cannabis, and you can get 25% off one full-priced item in any Live Well location with code DNVR25 in store. They have a bunch of amazing products. You can ask their professional staff. They'll help you out, pick something out, no matter what it might be. Live Well has you covered with 25 different locations in Colorado, and you can also order online for pickup beforehand to make your life even easier. So make sure you're getting in with Live Well today, and do that. Live well with code DNVR25 for 25% off. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Manson leaves this game. He doesn't return with a lower body injury. I'm not going to say you immediately saw the effects of that necessarily with the power play goal that ends up getting scored on the Avs in the second period, but is this, where are the Avs at with Manson going down? And we don't know the extent of the injury. For all we know, he could be fine tomorrow. But if he is going to miss some time, Shillington is back. So I guess that's the immediate thing that you do with it. But the Avs may have to start looking at other options at this point, right?
Yeah, and again, we'll talk about it tomorrow, but that's a fair question because on a night like tonight, like you said, all of a sudden you have a guy that plays heavy minutes. Josh plays heavy minutes. Was he on top of his game? No. Did I like his penalty the first? No. Do I believe that he kind of changed the game a little bit around? Yes, which is normal in a hockey game because the wind's going to go left, right, left, right. You know what I mean? But again, I felt that was a play that could be. Inevitable, or whatever you want to call that. I'm not sure what the word is, but it could have been avoided, and they would have been in that situation. But you're right. All of a sudden, you have a D in the box, and then you have one that's hurt. It exposes a little bit the lack of depth. You know what I mean, that the
Yep.
Avalanche might have on D. Again, to what extent? I've been listening to. Obviously, we're doing this right now. We haven't listened to Ben Nar's comments, but I haven't had a chance to look. But about what the injury is, I didn't see it. I don't know if they showed it on. All they said on TV was that he wasn't coming back. But again, lower body injury, whatever that means, I'm not too sure. Um, he was hurt with his wrist this year, so we know that it's not. That would be an upper body. So obviously, I'm not laughing at injuries and you don't like injuries, but Josh Manson is a big part of this team right now. Whether you feel that he's playing at the top of his capabilities, he's not. But he's been inconsistent. I mean, this year. But when he goes down, you do feel it that that's where I think the Avalanche will have to do something before the trade deadline of early March there. Because I do believe they need a little bit more depth. And again, Oliver Shillington, I've liked Oliver Shillington for years. Uh, God, including this year, you're talking about 3 years now. He hasn't played much. You know what I mean? So it's hard to judge Shilly's game because he hasn't played. Can he just all of a sudden get on this road trip and you're going to Calgary next game? This is a place he's very familiar with, and obviously, maybe that's where he jumps in and has a marvelous game and helps out. And obviously, the Avalanche need a little bit of help. So you're assuming he would be going in. I mean, obviously he's cleared to play. Just wasn't playing tonight. But you would think that he would be in the lineup next game, no matter what the situation was with Manson. And then at some point you got to go help out, right? You know what I mean? You can't just ease your way into it. You just got to go play because
Yep.
season's going down. There's not many games left in the sense that it's not training camp. It's almost playoff time.
Yeah, certainly on the other side of the break, it'll feel that way.
Yeah.
The Avs might not have a choice but to play Shillington a good bit in these next couple of games if Manson is missing time. Look, we've had this conversation before. I'd have DeHaan in over Middleton, certainly, or Malinsky if that's your choice, but the Avs haven't gotten good enough out of their third pairing, so it's hard to feel confident about anyone stepping up and filling the role that Manson is in. And I'm not saying Manson's played great over the last 10 games or whatever either, but if you're in the chat, do you believe that the guys the Avs have on their third pairing can replace what Manson's giving you on the second pairing? Because I think it's hard to make that argument right now. So
I agree. I agree. That's why I'm saying you got to dip into the, you're going to have to dip into the trade, pool. You know what I mean? In my book, whatever that means, I'm not sure. And like I said, it is not Xbox. It's not easy to just make trades. In the Avalanche, we've all seen once they've identified stuff this year, they haven't been, too shy on pulling the trigger. So I'm sure that whatever needs to be done will get done. And, but somewhere, somehow, you do need a little bit of help right now on the depth side of things.
PS chat, we're building our trade board for the Avalanche tomorrow on the show. So you're going to want to turn into that if you're looking for some answers that might potentially be out there. Just throwing that out there for you. As far as tonight's game is concerned, it's frustrating because of how often we've seen the Avs have the same issues. I do want to go over a couple of things, but I want to start by having a positive here. Mackenzie Blackwood gave the Avs a chance tonight, man. He really did. You got a quality goaltending performance from a guy that he gave you 75% of this game. All the Avs had to do was one play, one bounce, and they're right back in the game because Blackwood made multiple very, very big saves, as well as most of the ones that he was supposed to make tonight. First goal, sure, you probably want him to smother that rebound, but there are also three guys standing around doing nothing to DeBrusk as he goes down the middle with that puck. And then second goal, I don't know what, nothing he can do on that one with the power play situation that was there. So I do think if you're looking for a sense of continued stability from this team, obviously the two shutouts were great, but despite the loss tonight, it's another quality game from Blackwood.
Oh my God, I got no problem with that. I mean, this guy is solid. He's given up 2 goals in the last 3 games. Somewhere, somehow, I'm not worried about it. He's the least of my worries. You know what I mean? I do believe he's an emotional goaltender. He is a guy that, works hard, carries his emotion, on the ice, and I'm not worried about him. I thought he was more than fine. Again, you say it all the time. You give up 2, you should be able to win the game. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
When you get 0, that's no goal support. That's no run support. Whatever. But I'm not worried about him. I just feel that it's not always in sync. When goaltending is there, then the scoring's not there. Then all of a sudden the scoring was there, but then the goaltending, was average for a few games. You know what I mean? And it's just like you got to put it all together. You know what I mean? Because go do your job, right? Go do your job. Do what you do. Do your job, and then you're not going to be in this predicament. You know what I mean? So, and do it right. Don't do it on with no discipline.
Look, and I think we know that the Avs can, right? When Blackwood first got here, they went on a run. They had a 7-0-1 stretch of hockey where you felt like they did put it all together. But now you've gone, over a month of this yo-yoing at best or at times stringing multiple poor losses together.
Yeah.
It's not that the Avs can't get back to good. It's not even that I don't think the Avs will get back to good. I think they will. And that's what makes this stretch so frustrating, is because you can see it in there. You can see the good team, very good even, inside the Colorado Avalanche, but they can't seem to bring it out consistently right now. How much of that is, hey, it's one of those stretches of the season, and how much of that is on the Avs to raise that floor?
A little bit of both for me. A little bit of both. First of all, the schedules had a lot to do with it. We all know that. Like I said to you, I've talked to some coaches lately uh, around the league, and whether they're head coaches or assistant coaches, and it's just been a massacre for some teams. You know what I mean? Where it's just like it just drains you. You feel that every day, and that's every team. That's not just the Avalanche. But then you get through some stuff, and then all of a sudden, I think you have to challenge yourselves as a team if you're the Avalanche and say, we got to come out with that consistency, where you can't just all of a sudden have a good game and then the next one it's like going to Sunday practice at Wash Park. You know what I mean? Like if there was a rink at Wash Park in downtown Denver, whatever it's, you know what I mean? It's like, what are we doing here? No, it's hockey. It's tough. And you got to get out there and you got to go and do your job and do it in a way that makes the team and yourself successful. And I feel that they got to challenge themselves. And then it felt like they had turned the corner a little bit because we saw them win two in a row, a few days ago, where it had been a while since they'd won two in a row, right? You know what I mean? So all of a sudden you're like, okay. And then I liked the first period today. I really did. You know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, a little bit of bad luck, whatever. I'm one of those. I don't care about posts. Like, it's bad luck. You stick with it, and then all of a sudden it's going to turn. It's life, right? Or you're going to get a couple posts against you, and then and then it's all equals out. But all of a sudden they gave away a couple gifts, from the penalty standpoint, Josh's penalty, and then they didn't score, but all of a sudden they found their legs, and then a turnover at the far blue line, and then the undiscipline, you know what I mean, of Miles, and all of a sudden the game's lost, and you're like, what happened here? You know what I mean? So I feel that they need to challenge themselves as a team, as individuals. Again, I'm harsh on the production of some guys because for me, if you're playing 10, 12, 13, 14 minutes a night, the production right now, since January, for example, like it's just not good enough. You gotta produce a little bit. You know what I mean? You can't just leave it up to Mac and those guys to do something. You know what I mean? And they're snake. Nature's was snake bit again. I mean, what does he have? 18 posts in 5, 6 games he's been. I
Yep.
mean, it's bad luck. I mean, it is what it is. Bad luck. You go sometimes into stretches like that, but then the other guys have to. You got to produce, man. Like you can't. You can't just play. Like you got to produce at some point.
Let me look up a couple of stats on that too. Actually, I'm curious. While I'm looking it up though,
Yep.
realistically, what type of production rate should you expect out of a bottom six if you're Colorado? Because if I'm honest, over the last 5 or so games, your second line has actually produced pretty okay. Obviously, they didn't in this game, but you've had something with Parson and Druin and Middlestat as a unit that it's not great, but they're getting by with the amount of production they've had in the last, call it 10 games.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm being harsh, and I'm being harsh more on the bottom six. You know what I mean? Maybe. You know what I mean? And again, we all know Casey hasn't had the season he wants to have, or they want him to have, because it hasn't been very consistent. It was a good start, and then he got lost in the shuffle somewhere. You know, I think it's hard to blame Jonathan, but Jonathan's that one guy that's a little bit like a Lecky, right? You know what I mean? If things don't go well, they'll throw Lecky down, and then Joe with Mac, and then he'll get his points right there on the power play. So his production's been good. I mean, he's over. What is he still over a point a game? Correct? I mean,
Yep.
even by being blanked tonight, he's still over a point a game.
Flat
Which
at point. Yeah.
yeah, there you go, there you go. So I'm not worried about that, but it's more like you want a little bit more consistency from line scoring goals and not just relying on the power play. Yeah, we saw Druin and Middlestat a couple games ago, and what I mean, like getting that big night. But I just wish you could see it more and more and more. And then a third and fourth line right now. I'd like to see for example Logan and Parker Kelly and Kiwi. As your fourth line. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, to get some ice time, you got to be able to produce a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, it's not you can't go
Yeah.
dormant for 10 games in a row, like not getting on the score sheet. You're getting ice time. You got to get on the score sheet somewhere.
And just to back you up, obviously it's a little scattered because the Avs have had a number of players in their depth forward group. But since January 1, Inola, 0 points in the Avs bottom six. Malinsky's a D on the bottom pairing, but 0 points for the Avs since January 1. Uh, all of Poland, Ivan, Olausen, Felleber, Wood, Wagner, 0 points since January 1. Most of those guys have only played 5 games or less. But you even go higher than that. Parker Kelly, just 2 points in 16 games since January 1. Even someone that you maybe expected produce a little bit more in your depth, a Ross Colton, a Yoel Kiviranta, 3 points since January 1 in 16 games, which is, it's not none, but that's what, 15-point pace. If you extend that out to an entire season, you need more than that. You just need more production. When you have 4, 5, 6 guys on that type of pace in your bottom six, and sure, maybe your fourth liners, you can get away with that, even if you'd like a little bit more. But as third liners, you need more production there. You do. You saw Jack Drury come in and score 2 goals in his first 3 games as an Av, and he's got more production already than some of these guys have.
Exactly, and that's my point. That's where I'm growing a little bit like, you know what I mean? Like I'm getting a
Yep.
little angry, you know what I mean? Because I've always been a guy that I've never, I mean, boy, I've never envied those top guys. You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you one thing: that pressure to produce is just like night in and night out, and it's hard. It's hard because you're counted on, and your salary goes with it. And I'm not saying you're playing because of your salary, but it goes hand in hand. And then you're all of a sudden you're giving that good ice, right? You're It's hard to tell Logan O'Connor to score on the power play. He doesn't get on the power play. You know what I mean? You don't get that quality ice. That's not what we're saying here. Um, but those guys have all the pressure to produce a 5-on-5. They have the pressure to produce on the power play. I mean, look how harsh we were on the power play for like a month there. You know what I mean? Like it was getting ugly. You know what I mean, to a certain extent. But those guys have all the pressure. But when you're the other guys, you got to put pressure on yourself to help out and to be able to alleviate some pressure from those guys. I just feel that they're lacking on the consistency level of that, and the numbers say it. You know what I mean? So you can't go like God, like I say to you all the time, like never gonna blame Minola. Man, he played 5 minutes, and whatever. You know what I mean? Like I'm not. But when you're getting ice time, like I understand you don't want to get scored on. You know what I mean? But can you imagine if you're just going out there and you're making sure you're not getting scored on? I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta challenge yourself to get on the opposite side of things too, and then go produce and help out. And it's not hard to go in the corner, stick your butt out, protect the puck, create something below the goal line, get a few scoring chances, and pot one in. Like at some point, you have to challenge yourself to do it. And I feel that and that's what happens when you're riding shotgun with the leading scorer of the National Hockey League. You know what I mean? Because they can do it any moment, any night, and then you're just kind of watching it and you're in awe, and it's like great. But at some point, again, it sounds like a broken record, but you got to go help out. You got to go
Hey,
help out.
look, I think Parker Kelly is a perfect example. And don't get me wrong, I thought Parker Kelly was actually really good defensively tonight. He made a bunch of really good plays. But as a forward in the NHL, he has 0 points in his last 10 games. And across those games, tonight he played 14 minutes. The other night he played 11, 15, one low with 9, 13, 14,
Yeah.
14, 15. You have to find a way to produce.
I told you. I mean, it's easy for me. It's easy for me to say that because um,
Because we're sitting on the
I
couch
know.
and they're playing the game. I get it. I do.
No,
But
no, 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 no. When I say it's easy, no, no, no. Exactly what I'm saying is when I say it's easy for me, like I've lived it. I've lived it. I lived it with that era of the sacking and Forsberg, and I remember we used to, like with the Corbys of the world and those guys. You know, what I mean, like we'd put pressure on ourselves to go help those guys. And I remember being in the locker room, and it's a 0-1 nothing game after two, and it'd be like, you know what? All right, fellas. you know what? We're gonna go get you guys one. We're gonna go get you guys one. And then you put pressure on yourself. Then you go get one. It's like guys are like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? Like you can't play 15 minutes a night and get bagels every night. Like you can't. You know what I mean? Like you just can't. Um, it's not that hard. And I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not that hard. You know what I mean? I think that the guys have to, you know, again, it comes down to what we said earlier. Like bring it to the table where it's playoff hockey is do or die. So right now, this is where you're at, and I think we saw it a little bit. You know what I mean? Because it went their way. You know, the last couple games. And then tonight, all of a sudden, when it didn't go their way, you didn't see it. You know what I mean? Like you just
Yeah,
didn't see it. You know,
I agree 100%. Again, that's part of the reason I find this frustrating. You watched that Philly game the other day where they didn't get that
yeah,
first period goal, where maybe the offense wasn't working at the start of the game, and they battled
yeah,
through it. They found a way to produce, and they found a way to win that game,
yeah.
and then it was right back into it again tonight.
And that's what's frustrating. And I think as coaches and as a leadership group, as you know, listen, a guy like McCarr is never gonna, you know, as much. Sorry, McKinnon. As much as people say like angry Nate, and you know, what I mean, like, oh my God, you made a bad pass. He yells at you. Yeah, that's. I don't think you're ever gonna see a guy like all of a sudden speak up and go, boys, how about a little help? You know what I mean? Boys, how about a little help? Right now we're not scoring. How about you give us a little help? The guy's never gonna say that. You know what I mean? But I think you can feel it. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm a little disappointed in that bottom, you know, six or whatever you want to call that. It's hard to be disappointed, like I said, you know, at the bottom nine because Drew's been
It's
there. Yeah, I agree. You know what I mean? But
it's
the bottom
human
six,
nature. It's
you
human
gotta
nature,
help
right?
out.
Like if I was
Yeah,
Nathan McKinnon, you don't think I'm annoyed every time I look at the stats and I'm the leading scorer in the NHL and every third game we're getting shut out? You don't think I'm mad about that? Like
that's what I'm saying. You know, like it's not hard. Like I said to you the other day, it's not hard to grab a puck. Everybody, you got a little speed, throw the puck on net. You know, what I mean, you know, charge the net. I'm not saying take the goalie out. I'm saying create havoc, and as a face-off, do it again, and you know, like start buzzing. You know what I mean? Instead of like, oh no, I'm just gonna go there and get a puck deep and you know back off. And like, come on, man, you gotta get involved. Like you know, you gotta make sure that you're challenging yourselves to help out because yes, it is frustrating. I don't care what people say. McCarr will never come out and say it, or McKinnon will never come out and say it, but it is the truth. I mean, it's right there. It's on paper too. You know what I mean? So
yep.
it's like, if those guys don't go, the other guys don't really help enough.
It is what it is. The Avs are no
Yeah,
stranger to making their lives hard this year. It's
yeah,
happened a lot. The reality is, you start this road trip off with a loss, you have a back to back left. If you go out and win both of those games, you win 4 of your last 5 into this break, guess what?
sure.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares about this Vancouver game if you have the response. You'll feel
Hundred
fine.
100%. And like you say it all the time. Like again, good teams don't lose two in a row. Now, if you're going by Bednar's words, you know, playoff hockey, you're 2-1.
Yep.
Right? You know, you going into Calgary again. It's another playoff type atmosphere. I mean, those guys are right there, like everybody else on this road trip. You know what I mean? Like with the exception of a little bit of Edmonton, that's a little bit ahead, but you know, it's playoff hockey, and it's going to be intense. It's going to be a loud building. It's going to be, you know, you can't go to sleep for a shift or two. You can't be on discipline for a play or two. It's going to sink you. You know what I mean? So you have to be able to put everything aside and you can't be emotional, but you got to play with emotions, right? You know what I mean? Like what I mean by that is you can't have a retaliation penalty or be mad or you know what I mean. Like that's what I mean by being emotional. But you got to bring some passion and some emotions to the game and control it. You know, you have to be able
Yep.
to something that the Avs didn't do tonight. They didn't control their emotions. You know, whenever they tried to show emotion, they didn't really control it, which is not good. You know, but then sometimes you got to dig deep and you got to dig, and then sometimes it's just like it's ugly, it's nasty, and it's tough and it's hard. But that's how you win consistently, and that's what they need to get back to. Put the working boots on. You know, they do have the skill, or is it an identity in the sense that they just don't have enough of that? You know what I mean? With you know with your skill and everything. Are you too soft? And again, we'll talk about that tomorrow. But are you too soft as a team? Maybe you are. I don't know. You know what I mean?
It's the result. I love the treat this as a 2-1 series, right? The
Yep.
Avs got blown out in Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final in 2022. They responded and won the cup. That's you have the opportunity always, unless it's the last game of the season, you can always win the next one. So,
100%.
and maybe you feel like you didn't treat this one with the respect that you should have, as if you're treating it like a playoff game. Well, guess what? Calgary's the other wild card team. You play them Thursday, so treat that one like a playoff game, because it kind of is. You're directly battling for a potential seeding spot with Calgary. So go find it. On the bigger picture, even with this loss, Vancouver could still win all of their games in hand and would be behind Colorado. This is not a seismic thing here. The Avs still are fine. Yeah. Don't be unhappy with the game. Be unhappy with the Avs' inconsistency of late, but let's not lose our minds here.
No.
All right. One last thing. We do have a takeover at the end of the month. February 28th, the Avs are taking on Minnesota, and we're taking over a suite at Ball Arena. So be sure to jump in on that. Get part of it. Come watch a game with us in the arena. You get a bus to and from the arena from the bar, where you get free beer too. So it's a great time. They're always loads of fun. Even if the Avs are frustrating, you get to hang out with the DNVR fam and enjoy life. Consider joining. Go over to thednvr.com/events today to get your tickets and come have a great time with us. All right, I guess that's it. Like I mentioned, we are building our trade board. AJ, Eric, and I will all be giving input on what we think potential Avs targets should be come trade deadline. So join us for that show tomorrow. As for this one, we are out of here. We appreciate all y'all hanging out, even if everyone is just mad and screaming in the chat. That's fine.
There's 2 super chats.
Yeah, we do have the super chats. 5 from Avalanche that says, it feels like the top guys need to have an A+ game every night or they lose. They can't even slip to a B night like tonight. Just not enough depth. Yeah, I think we kind of mostly covered that conversation already, so accurate. And then we have one more from Casey for $5 that says, when do we start talking about how Bednar has lost the team? Never. It's never been true. All of you that have been saying this have been making it up all year, and that's why I've stopped acknowledging it, because it's BS. So we're not talking about that. Okay, that's the end of the show. We appreciate y'all. We'll see you on the next one.
We all silly like the mayor.